we talked about the importance of identity development in our children. This is our second talk on this topic. Today, inshallah, we are going to discuss further into this matter. For children growing up as minorities, like Muslim children in the West, consolidating a healthy Islamic identity against peer and social pressure is necessary for spiritual health. Religiosity, strong religious feeling or belief in Muslim youth is linked with well-being, self-worth, and low anxiety. A strong Islamic identity provides the belief and values that contribute to resilience. So if we want to know what is resilience, it is the capacity to effectively adapt when confronted with hardship or stress. So we need to develop it in our children. The question is how to do it. It is by shaping the core of who your child is, a worshipper and a beloved creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This sustains your child with the perspective that this dunya, this world is temporary, that hardship comes with reward. Inna ma'al usri yusra, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in last juz of the Quran, and that we are rewarded based on our efforts, not result. The Quran and the seerah of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam can be used to teach sabr, which is a perseverance. It is also important, highlighted in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. O believers, ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. Seek help from sabr and pray. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking in the Quran if you find yourself in a challenging situation or circumstances. And resilience through real life examples. So we can see from the seerah of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, and we can teach these practical experiences, a practical model into our children characteristics. So when a child maintains a stable sense of self during struggles, uncertainties, their ability to bounce back from these difficulties increases. So that is what we are trying to do, to build up resilience in our children character, so that when they are facing these challenges, so they can cope with these challenges. For example, a middle schooler who chooses to wear the hijab to please and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This example is very good for those youth who feel a bit social pressure, a peer pressure, about their dress. With absolute belief in the reward that comes from this choice, will be better prepared to thrive despite criticism from peers, as opposed to a student who lacks similar conviction, faith, belief, principle. If you are wearing that, you are going to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a sister who is wearing hijab to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she will confront this challenge, a social pressure, a peer pressure, with courage that she is only pleasing and making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy. So, keeping in your mind these, I will highlight 3 elements that can help nurture the beliefs, values, and behaviors that our children need to develop a healthy identity. Number 1, self-esteem. Very common word being used in the Western culture. Healthy self-esteem, which is confidence, basically, allows children to acknowledge their inherent God-given worth. This allows them to face difficulties with a stable sense of self and a clear purpose, understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted them the strength and qualities needed to navigate challenges. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah is not going to put you that kind of burden which you cannot bear. That is the promise of our Creator with us. So, second thing, self-efficacy. Healthy self-efficacy involves the belief in one's capabilities to achieve a goal or cope with a difficulty. This empowers children to strive toward their goals with the understanding that while they must do their part in working towards the outcome they want, relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help is necessary every step of the way. Healthy self-efficacy allows children to face challenges with a feeling of safety in knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our protector and provider. Wallahu yarzuqu man yasha'u bighayri hisab. In every circumstances, if you have that firm belief, while also encouraging their own capabilities which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to them to handle difficult situations and circumstances. Number 3, self-trust. Healthy self-trust involves the belief in one's ability to act in a way aligned with one's best interest and personal values. This allows children to feel capable of exercising their God-given free will in a manner that benefits them in this life and the next. It empowers them to view challenges as manageable due to confidence in their capacity to make positive decisions even in difficult moments, and it nurtures trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has not tested them with more than they can bear. As I mentioned before, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. These 3 concepts which I just presented to you are interconnected and build upon one another. For example, nurturing a healthy sense of self-esteem allows children to feel capable of striving toward what they want in life, while a healthy understanding of their capabilities allows them to make positive decisions and stand up for themselves when needed. These are some of the foundational elements that can help children feel a sense of strength in their Muslim identity, allowing them to feel worthy as worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, capable of achieving their purpose as His servants and able to make choices that align with their values. The stronger one's identity, the more potentially resiliency ensures consistency in our worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thereby enhancing our benefit in both this life and the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises this dunya is a place of test for every one of us. Someone is being tested by given severe illness, a sickness, disability. Someone is being tested giving a lot of wealth. Someone is being tested giving a high status in their life. Someone is being tested due to poverty in their life. So all of us, whether you are rich, old, young, child, everyone is being tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this dunya is based on that. This is very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, these are the test of fate that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written for us. This includes things in life over which we have no control, as I mentioned to you before, including when we are born, when we die, an unexpected diagnosis, an accident that befall a loved one, etc. All these things, we don't know anything about that. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to this world. Though these tests can superficially manifest as good or evil, everything that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wallahi, is good, whether we know or not. Whether you are facing challenges of sickness in your life, a hardship in your life, a poverty in your life, a depression in your life, wallahi, everything comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything which comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is good, but obviously we do not understand the hikmah behind that. So every soul will taste death. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut, and we test you with evil and with good as trial, and to us you will be returned. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran. So if we know all these things, then we can build that resilience in our characteristics and in our children characteristics. That everything comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to the patient. So at the end, look at the last word. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He will test you with hunger, with fear, with starvation, all these things. But at the end He said, there is happy tidings for that person who observes patience, sabr. Subhanallah. So there is a good in it. As in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining to us. Second type of test is a test of worship. These are tests of revolution and how we choose to respond to the legislation and limitation revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, including fulfilling those actions which are allowed in Islam and those actions which are not allowed in Islam. There are a lot of temptation to do something bad, evil, follow the path of shaitan. So this is also a test for us, because this dunya is like a well-dressed, well-decorated, a bride that everyone attracted to her. So this is the test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have indeed made whatever is on earth as an adornment for it, in order to test which of them is best in deeds. So all these things surrounding us, latest devices, social media, and nudity, and bad evils, shaitan, walking in the streets. So this is all a test for us, how we can save and protect ourselves and our children from these evil environment which we are living in. Resilience is necessary to effectively respond to both types of tests. That is our purpose to discuss this matter, as well as the ability to stand firm in faith and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when following commands that run counter to our personal desires. So we're fighting against our nafs. And what is nafs? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described by the way in English, nafs is your self. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. So our unlimited desires, our nafs is always attracted to commit sins, always attracted to follow the path of shaitan. That is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. No, we are working, we have to work on our nafs. Like we tame a horse so we can ride on that horse. So this nafs is basically for you to ride on it to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But before that, you have to tame this nafs, to make this nafs surrender before the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Helping our children. So we are talking about our youth and children, which we have to protect them. Helping our children to build a strong Islamic identity can facilitate resilience by allowing them to align their beliefs, values, and behaviors. That is why we bring them to the Salatul Jummah, we bring them to the centers. We are associated with those organizations who organize different events and programs and workshops, so our children can build up these resilience in their characteristics. Fostering, encouraging healthy Islamic identity development. Practical approaches, my Muslim brothers and sisters. As parents, we can practically enhance and nurture our children's Islamic identity. The following steps encourage in enhancing an attachment with who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First and foremost, as well as healthy attachment to parents, very important, and other caregivers. The following ideas are focused on the importance of, number one, nurturing self-esteem. Number two, self-efficacy. Number three, self-trust. They offer practical ways to foster these qualities in our children, to build their resilience through a strong, healthy, and stable Islamic identity. So number one, self-esteem. How to build self-esteem? Number one, labeling. Strengths-based approach. We are going to learn what are those approaches, such as verbalizing observed strengths, helping your child identify strengths, paying attention to what your child is doing right, then conveying a sense of importance. Under that conveying a sense of importance, we're gonna look into showing interest in what your child enjoys, making space for your child in discussion, let them in, give them chance to discuss matters with you, investing in the magic ratio. These things, inshallah, we are going to practical things with examples I will highlight, inshallah, next Friday.